managed the narrative while maintaining personal composure. And the family remained fractured, each side holding fast to their perspective. The stakes were higher than ever, and the pressure on everyone involved was palpable. Digital surveillance and investigative work continued around the clock. Patterns in communication, travel, and social interactions were meticulously examined, each anomaly generating new questions and hypotheses. The ambiguity surrounding Celia's intentions fueled further speculation. Emotions ran high, and the public remained on edge, desperate for clarity in a story that offered none. Every day brought new twists, new angles, and new debates. As the drama continued to unfold without resolution, Riley and Marcus adapted to the relentless scrutiny, learning to navigate a world where every statement, gesture, and movement could be amplified, analyzed, and misinterpreted. Emotions ran high as they faced the reality of living under constant observation, balancing personal safety with public accountability. The story's momentum showed no signs of slowing, and every development reinforced the sense that the drama was far from over. The family was left divided, the public remained captivated, and the tension surrounding Celia Carter continued to build, creating a storm that seemed unstoppable. The weeks stretched on, and the emotional toll on everyone involved became increasingly evident. Riley showed signs of strain, Marcus wrestled with guilt and responsibility, and Celia's absence loomed larger with each passing day. Emotions ran high as the investigation pressed forward. The media scrutinized every detail, and the public clamored for answers that remained frustratingly out of reach. The story had grown beyond personal conflict, becoming a saga of fear, suspicion, and intrigue that held the world's attention. Fans were shocked, the family remained divided, and the tension continued to escalate, setting the stage for further revelations that would change everything. Intensity of the situation showed no sign of easing as the third week unfolded, each day layering new twists onto the already tangled web of drama. Celia Carter's absence had become more than a mystery. It had become a symbol of uncertainty that dominated conversations, headlines, and online feeds. Every unverified sighting, every anonymous tip, and every leaked message added fuel to a fire that had already consumed so many relationships. Fans were shocked, dissecting every piece of evidence and rumor with meticulous obsession, while the family struggled to maintain even a semblance of normalcy amidst the relentless scrutiny. Emotions ran high, leaving little room for reason or patience, and the sense of fear and urgency permeated every corner of their world. Inside Marcus Moore's office, the air was thick with tension. Phones rang incessantly, reporters demanded statements, and private investigators delivered updates that were often contradictory. The man who had built a career on controlling narratives now found himself a passenger on a vessel that refused to follow any course he could chart. Each call brought news of another rumor, another leak, another wave of public speculation. Every detail, no matter how minor, was dissected, debated, and amplified, creating an environment in which clarity became impossible. Emotions ran high, and the pressure to act while remaining composed weighed heavily on him. Riley Moore's public appearances had become a delicate balancing act. She spoke with measured calm, recounting the events leading up to the leaked recording and her fears about Celia's potential actions. The weight of expectation, the intensity of public attention, and the ever-present scrutiny left her visibly strained. Fans were shocked at the emotional transparency she displayed, while critics questioned her motives and reliability. The family was left divided, some rallying behind her courage, others questioning her judgment and role in the escalating situation. Each day brought new emotional challenges, leaving Riley navigating a minefield of perception and reality. Within Celia's circle, suspicion reached new heights. Friends and associates scrutinized each other's actions, analyzing texts, calls, and meetings for hidden meaning. One close associate described the palpable sense of tension. Every word spoken felt like it could tip the balance. Every glance carried weight. Every decision was scrutinized. It was exhausting, but there was no turning back. The family, meanwhile, was caught between loyalty, fear, and uncertainty. Old grudges resurfaced, alliances shifted, and the emotional landscape became a battlefield, leaving everyone unsure whom to trust. Emotions ran high, and the fear of misstep created a constant state of anxiety. Investigators continued their meticulous work, analyzing digital footprints, travel logs, and communications for any clue about Celia's whereabouts or intentions. Patterns emerged, only to be contradicted by other data, creating a puzzle that seemed deliberately designed to frustrate. Every anomaly sparked debate. Was it evidence of planning, or merely coincidence? The ambiguity fed public speculation, emotions ran high, and the narrative grew ever more complex. The tension was relentless, and the search for clarity became an obsession, not just for authorities but for fans and family alike. Marcus Moore's role became increasingly complex as he attempted to manage both the narrative and his personal life. Late nights were spent reviewing the timeline of events, the leaked recordings, and the media coverage. The weight of responsibility pressed down, a constant reminder that any misstep could have far-reaching consequences. He struggled to protect Riley from the worst of public scrutiny, while also grappling with the implications of their decisions. Emotions ran high, and every choice carried the potential for both resolution and escalation. The family was left divided, and the stakes continued to climb with each passing day. Social media remained a relentless force, amplifying every rumor, sighting, and commentary. One alleged sighting of Celia at a secluded location sparked a frenzy, as fans dissected photos and videos for clues about her intentions. The speculation was intense, emotions ran high, and the public's obsession with the story seemed insatiable. Every post, every comment, and every analysis added layers to the drama, creating a pressure cooker of anticipation and fear. The family, already fractured, found themselves responding to narratives shaped more by speculation than fact. Riley and Marcus faced growing strain in their personal relationship. Strategic discussions about public statements, safety, and narrative management often escalated into arguments. Emotions ran high, and the delicate balance between protecting themselves and maintaining composure became increasingly difficult. Every decision carried weight. Every public appearance required careful calculation, and the relentless scrutiny of the media and public added a persistent undercurrent of tension. The story had evolved into something far larger than personal conflict, shaping the emotional landscape of everyone involved. Inside Celia's family, old tensions resurfaced with renewed intensity. Siblings and cousins took sides. Family gatherings became negotiations fraught with suspicion, and every conversation carried the unspoken weight of fear and uncertainty. Emotions ran high as they struggled to reconcile loyalty with reality, past relationships with present ambiguity. The absence of Celia magnified these fractures, leaving the family divided and emotionally strained. Fans were shocked by the public airing of private grievances, and critics suggested that the internal discord confirmed the severity of the situation. Investigative efforts continued around the clock, with digital surveillance, communications, analysis, and meticulous record-keeping revealing small anomalies that fueled speculation. Every minor discrepancy was scrutinized, analyzed, and debated, feeding the public's obsession and intensifying emotions. The ambiguity surrounding Celia's actions, combined with the relentless media attention, created an environment in which fear, speculation, and drama thrived. Fans were shocked at the intensity and complexity of the unfolding story, and the family remained divided, caught in a vortex of suspicion and uncertainty. As the third week drew to a close, the pressure on everyone involved intensified. Riley displayed signs of strain. Marcus wrestled with the implications of every decision, and the absence of Celia continued to loom over every interaction. Emotions ran high, and the narrative showed no sign of slowing. Public fascination, media scrutiny, and internal family tensions combined to create a storm of unprecedented intensity. Fans were shocked, the family remained divided, and the emotional stakes continued to rise, setting the stage for further dramatic developments that promised to upend everything once again. And now, as you've followed every twist, every whispered secret, and every tense moment that has shaken this circle of power, the story is far from over. Celia Carter's absence, Riley's courage, and the fractures in loyalty all leave us asking the questions that no one can yet answer. Will the truth finally surface? Or will speculation continue to rule the narrative? Who will stand by whom, and who will vanish in the shadows of their own choices? You, the viewer, hold a part of this story. Your theories, your opinions, and your reactions shape the conversation. So dive into the comments and let us know what you think really happened. Hit that like button if you were shocked by the revelations. Subscribe so you don't miss the next explosive update. And turn on notifications because the drama is only going to escalate from here. Every voice matters, and your take could uncover angles no one else. The whispers started late at night and moved faster than anyone expected. By sunrise, fans were already in a frenzy, in what many are calling the most explosive rumor to hit reality television in years. Word spread that Mendeecees had quietly filed for divorce after a DNA test allegedly turned his world upside down. It was not just another tabloid headline. It was a story packed with heartbreak, suspicion, and a marriage now standing on the edge of collapse. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high across social media, and the family was left divided before either side said a single public word. According to sources close to the couple, the tension had been building for months. On camera, smiles still appeared. At home, the air was said to feel heavy and strained. Friends noticed the distance. Phone calls went unanswered. Late nights became longer. Then came the test. Quiet, private. Supposedly meant to settle doubts that had been haunting Mendeecees in silence. No one expected what the results were rumored to show. When the story broke, reactions poured in within minutes. Supporters rushed to defend Yandy. Others sided with Mendeecees, claiming the signs were always there. Old interviews were pulled apart. Past arguments were replayed with new meaning. Every look, every pause, every emotional moment was suddenly placed under a harsh new light. Fans are shocked, not only by the claim itself, but by how quickly everything unraveled. Behind closed doors, sources allege that the confrontation was intense. Voices raised, tears fell, accusations flew across the room like open wounds. Trust, once fragile, was said to fracture completely in a single night. "I gave you everything," one voice was heard to say, trembling with anger and disbelief. The response, according to those who claim to know, was quiet at first, then raw with panic. Emotions ran high as years of shared history collided with a single sheet of paper. By the time the divorce filing rumor surfaced, friends were already choosing sides. Some pleaded for calm, others urged Mendeecees to stand firm. The family was left divided, unsure who to believe and how to protect the children caught in the middle. Even longtime supporters admitted they did not recognize the couple they once admired. And now, as the world watches and speculates, one question hangs in the air like a storm cloud. If these allegations are true, what really happened behind that DNA test result? And why is the truth emerging now? What secrets have been buried under years of cameras, interviews, and carefully curated smiles? Tonight, we unpack every twist of this dramatic, still unfolding story. Because what started as a quiet test may end as the most public heartbreak of all. The house dim, the city outside humming with distant traffic, and the air inside so heavy with unsaid words that even the smallest sound felt too loud. Mendeecees sat alone at the kitchen table with his phone face down beside his hand, staring at the same spot on the wood as if the answer to every doubt lived in its grain. While Yandy moved in and out of the room with forced calm, placing dishes in the sink she did not remember using, wiping a counter that was already clean. Her steps careful, her voice light but thin when she finally asked if he planned to eat, and he only shook his head slowly without looking up. The kind of silence that feels louder than shouting, settling between them, stretched tight with weeks of tension that neither of them could pretend away anymore. He had not planned to speak that night. Not yet. Not until he was sure how to say it without everything shattering at once. But the weight in his chest had become unbearable, every memory looping back to the same quiet questions that had been haunting him for months. And when he finally lifted his eyes to her, there was a look there she had not seen before. Stripped of warmth, filled instead with a tired resolve that made her pause midst. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but steady. And something in the way he said it told her this was not another argument that could be smoothed over by morning. Her hands tightened slightly at her sides as she nodded and pulled out the chair across from him, sitting slowly, her face composed but her eyes alert, waiting. For a moment, he said nothing, and she almost spoke again to fill the space. But then he pushed his phone forward across the table, not toward her yet, just enough that the screen caught the light. "I did the DNA test," he said, the words flat, and her breath caught so sharply it was almost a sound. She blinked once, then again, as if steadying herself. "Why would you do that without telling me?" she asked, her tone controlled but edged with alarm, and he gave a short, humorless laugh. "Because every time I asked, you shut it down. Every time I brought up my doubts, you called me crazy, paranoid, ungrateful." His jaw tightened. "I needed the truth without another fight." Her composure began to crack then, just slightly, a flicker of something like fear moving across her face before she mastered it. "And what truth do you think you found?" she asked, leaning back as if to put space between them and the words he was about to say. His fingers hovered over the phone for a moment. Then he turned the screen toward her, the report visible in stark lines, names blurred by distance but the conclusion unmistakable. Her eyes dropped to it and stayed there. For a second the world felt as if it had stopped between them, suspended in that single instant of recognition. She looked up slowly, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came at first. And in that silence his voice broke through. "Rough now. How long were you going to lie to me?" he demanded, not shouting, but the quiet intensity in his tone carried more weight than any raised voice. Her hands trembled as she reached for the phone, but he pulled it back. "Don't," he said. "Don't touch it like you can change what it says." And finally she exhaled, long and shaky, her eyes glistening though no tears had fallen yet. "You don't understand," she began, the familiar preface to explanations he had heard too many times. And something in him hardened at those words. "Then make me understand," he replied, his voice rising at last, a crack cutting through the calm he had forced himself to keep. "Make me understand how I trusted you, how I defended you to everyone, how I built my life around this family, and now I'm sitting here looking at proof that you weren't telling me the truth." She shook her head quickly. "It's not that simple," she said, her voice unsteady now. "Nothing about our life has ever been simple." His eyes flashed. "Simple enough for you to hide this from me," he shot back. And the argument that followed spilled out with all the restraint of a dam breaking under pressure. Voices rose, cutting through the quiet house, years of buried resentment and old wounds clawing their way to the surface. She accused him of never truly trusting her, of always keeping one foot out the door. He accused her of betrayal so deep it reached into every memory they shared, every late-night promise, every public stand they had taken together. And as the argument raged, something fragile and essential between them began to crack in ways that could not be undone with apologies or time. By the time their voices finally fell into exhausted silence, both were shaking, not from the volume of the fight, but from the weight of what had been said, what could not be taken back. Yandy sat with her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if trying to hold her world together by force alone. Mendeecees stood, pacing once before stopping by the window, his back to her, looking out into the dark as if searching for guidance that would not come. "I need space," he said quietly, and this time there was no argument, only a hollow nod from her in answer. News of the confrontation did not stay locked within the walls of the house for long. Close friends noticed the shift almost immediately. The sudden cancellations, the lack of public appearances together, the absence of the easy affection that once marked every interaction. Whispers began to circulate, at first cautious, then more pointed. Fans are shocked as speculations spread across social media like wildfire. Old clips were dissected with new suspicion, every smile questioned, every tense moment recast as a hidden sign. And while neither of them spoke publicly, their silence only fueled the storm. Inside their private circle, reactions were swift and divided. Some rallied around Mendeecees, urging him to protect himself and the children. Others stood firmly with Yandy, insisting there was more to the story than any test could capture. Emotions ran high in group chats and late-night phone calls. Tempers flared as loyalties were tested. And the family was left divided in a way that made gatherings feel like emotional minefields rather than places of comfort. Days later, when Mendeecees finally returned to the house to collect some of his things, the atmosphere was thick with unresolved tension. The children were not home, a choice made deliberately to spare them from the pain unfolding between their parents. Yandy watched from the doorway as he moved through the house that once felt like their shared sanctuary, now reduced to a series of rooms filled with memories that cut too sharply to hold. "You don't have to do this like this," she said softly, and he paused, his hand resting on the edge of a dresser. "I don't know how else to do it," he replied without turning around. She took a step closer, her voice trembling. "We can fix this," she insisted. "We've fixed worse." He finally faced her then, and faced her then, and the look in his eyes stopped her cold. "This is different," he said. "This is about truth, about who we are to each other." She opened her mouth to argue, to plead, but something in his expression told her he was already standing on the other side of a decision he had not yet spoken out loud. That night, after he left with a single suitcase and a storm of unanswered questions trailing behind him, Yandy sat alone on the edge of the bed and let the tears come at last. Not the quiet, controlled kind she allowed herself in public, but the deep, shaking sobs of someone watching the foundation of her life crumble, piece by piece. Across the city, Mendeecees drove without a destination at first, the streetlights blurring through unshed tears as his mind replayed every word, every accusation, every moment that had led them here. The following morning, the first hint of what was to come reached the outside world through an unexpected channel. A single leaked message, allegedly sent in a moment of raw emotion, began circulating among bloggers and fan pages, its contents vague but unmistakably tense, hinting at betrayal, at proof, at a marriage hanging by a thread. Fans are shocked as the story gained traction within hours, and with each share, the pressure on both sides mounted. Yandy's phone rang without pause. Calls from friends, family, and even distant acquaintances who claimed they only wanted to check in, but whose questions cut straight into the wound. She answered a few, offered vague reassurances, then turned the phone off entirely when the weight of it became too much to bear. Meanwhile, Mendeecees found himself fielding calls of his own, some offering support, others pushing for details he was not ready to share. Every conversation ended the same way, with silence stretched thin by things that could not yet be said out loud. As the days passed, the emotional distance between them hardened into something more defined, something that felt permanent even if neither had spoken its name yet. Lawyers were mentioned in hushed tones during private calls. The word divorce hovered unspoken in the air, like a threat too heavy to confront directly. And with each passing hour, the quiet space where reconciliation might have lived grew smaller. Their families became unwilling participants in the fallout. Siblings argued over what to believe. Parents questioned past choices with new doubt, and the children, shielded as much as possible, sensed the shift even without understanding its cause. Nights that once ended with shared routines now closed in separate houses with separate silences. Behind the scenes, those closest to them struggled with their own reactions. One longtime friend confided in another, "I've never seen him like this. He's always been tough, but now he looks like something inside him finally broke." Another replied with equal uncertainty, "She's not the villain people want to paint her as. There's more here. There has to be." And those words echoed the uncertainty gripping everyone on the outside looking in. When Mendeecees finally agreed to meet Yandy again, a week later, it was in a neutral place, a quiet room away from cameras and family alike. Chosen to keep the conversation as contained as possible, they sat across from each other at a small table, the space between them feeling wider than any physical distance they had ever known. "I never wanted it to come to this," she said softly, her eyes hollow with exhaustion, and he nodded once. "Neither did I," he replied, his tone weary but firm. She tried again to explain, to give context to years of choices and fears, to paint a picture where her actions made sense even if they had been wrong. He listened without interruption, his face unreadable, and when she finished, the silence that followed felt heavier than any argument they had shared before. "I believe you're scared," he finally said, "but that doesn't change what you did." And her shoulders sagged as if the last of her strength had drained away at those words. Outside that room, the world continued to speculate, to pick sides, to turn private pain into public discourse. Fans are shocked by the lack of clear answers, by the absence of the familiar united front. And as rumors grow more detailed with each retelling, the line between truth and assumption becomes harder to find. Back at his temporary apartment, Mendeecees sat alone, late into the night, the DNA report once again open on the table before him, its stark certainty offering no comfort, only finality. He thought of the life he believed he had built, the future he had imagined, and the sharp divide now cutting between past and present. He reached for his phone, hovered over her name, then set it back down without calling. In another part of the city, Yandy lay awake staring at the ceiling, her mind spinning through every possible outcome, every regret, every word she wished she could take back or explain more clearly. The weight of the coming decision pressed down on her chest until breathing itself felt like work. She knew what was coming even if she could not yet face saying it aloud. And so, as the private pain deepened, the public storm only began to gather its strength. The quiet before a much louder reckoning. With both sides standing on the edge of a choice that would not only reshape their own lives but ripple outward through family, fans, and a world that was watching closely, waiting for the next crack in the silence where the truth might finally spill out. Morning light crept through the thin curtains of Mendeecees' temporary place, pale and unwelcome after a night with no real sleep. He had spent hours replaying every word from that last meeting with Yandy, every pause, every breath, every moment he almost said something different and did not. His phone buzzed on the table beside him, vibrating against the wood like a warning. He did not need to look at the screen to know who it was from. The same reporter who had been circling for days, hungry for confirmation, hungry for a headline. He let it ring out. The silence afterward felt heavier than the noise. By mid-morning, the rumors had sharpened into something bolder, less cautious. Posts were appearing everywhere, some claiming inside sources, others inventing details, whole cloth. Fans are shocked by how quickly speculation turned into certainty in the public mind. And with each new post, pressure built like heat under glass. Mendeecees finally exhaled and made the call he had been avoiding. His lawyer answered on the second ring, already aware from the tone alone that this was no small check-in. "We need to move forward," Mendeecees said quietly. And on the other end of the line, there was a pause, then a careful reply. "Are you sure?" He closed his eyes, the report flashing in his mind like a brand. I've never been more sure of anything. Across town, Yandy was sitting at the kitchen counter with a cup of cold coffee she had forgotten to drink, scrolling through her phone, despite having promised herself she would stop. Every headline felt like a blow, every comment a fresh wound. Some defended her fiercely, others accused her with a cruelty that made her chest ache. She set the phone face down and pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to breathe through the tightness. When her sister's name lit up on the screen moments later, she hesitated, then answered, her voice already fragile. "Tell me they're wrong," her sister said without preamble, and Yandy swallowed hard. "I wish I could," she whispered. The conversation that followed was one of grief and disbelief, of questions without clean answers. Her sister's shock gave way to anger, not at Yandy at first, but at the situation itself, at how everything had exploded so fast. "The family is already splitting over this," she said. "People are choosing sides like it's a game." Yandy closed her eyes, the words sinking deep. "I never wanted this," she replied, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "I just wanted things to stay the way they were." By the time the call ended, the decision she had been avoiding felt impossibly close. Like a door she could no longer pretend was not there. She reached for her phone again and scrolled to Mendeecees' name, her thumb hovering. She wanted to beg him to slow down, to pause, to breathe. But another part of her knew that whatever momentum had started between them might already be out of their control. The legal papers moved faster than either of them expected. Once the machinery started, it did not hesitate out of sentiment. Mendeecees signed with a steady hand that surprised even him, as if his body had already accepted what his heart was still struggling to process. His lawyer slid the documents into a folder and began listing next steps in a calm, professional tone. But the words blurred together. All he truly heard in his mind was a single unspoken sentence repeating over and over, "This is really happening." When news of the filing leaked, it did not arrive gently. It hit the public like a match to dry grass. Fans are shocked as confirmation replaced speculation, and emotions surged across every platform. Some praised his strength, others condemned his timing. Some insisted Yandy deserved grace, others demanded accountability. And in the middle of it all were their children, invisible to most of the noise yet affected by every echo of it. Mendeecees learned about the leak not from his lawyer, but from an old friend who texted him a single screenshot with no words attached. He stared at the image, the headline bold and merciless, then let the phone fall back to the couch beside him, his chest tightening so sharply he had to stand and pace just to breathe normally again. "So this is how it becomes public," he murmured to himself, the privacy he had hoped to preserve evaporating in seconds. Yandy found out the same way, through an avalanche of messages that did not, the same way, through an avalanche of messages that did not stop, her phone lighting up again and again until the battery warning flashed like a final insult. She read the headline, her vision blurring as if the words themselves were swimming on the screen. The filing made it real, in a way nothing else had yet. She slid down against the wall and sat on the floor, her back pressed to the cool surface as if grounding herself against a shaking world. Friends began arriving at both their doors within hours, some unannounced, some invited in quiet desperation. At Mendeecees' place, his closest confidant sat across from him on the couch, hands clasped, shaking his head slowly. "I never thought I'd see this day," he said, and Mendeecees gave a tired half-smile that held no humor. "Neither did I." At Yandy's house, two of her closest friends surrounded her at the kitchen table, one holding her hand, the other rubbing slow circles on her back as she tried to speak through sobs that refused to subside. "You have to tell your side," one friend urged gently. "You can't let all of this be written without you." Yandy wiped her eyes, her voice raw. "What side do I even tell?" she asked. "The one where I made mistakes, or the one where my whole family is being pulled apart in public?" Her friends sighed, knowing there was no simple answer that would shield her from what was coming. As the day wore on, the reactions grew louder. Commentators dissected every past interview, every body language cue, every moment when tension might have slipped through the cracks unnoticed at the time. Fans are shocked not just by the divorce itself, but by how many now claimed they had seen it coming. And in the swirl of hindsight and certainty, the human cost of the story was often lost. That evening, Mendeecees received a message he had not expected. It was from one of Yandy's relatives. Short, direct, and heavy with disappointment. "We trusted you to protect this family," it read. He stared at the words for a long time before replying with equal restraint. "I'm trying to protect it the only way I know how." He did not know if the response would be accepted or rejected. and in truth, he had no energy left to care. Yandy, meanwhile, sat with her mother in the quiet of the living room, the television muted as if any sound beyond their breathing would be too much. Her mother's face was calm but lined with worry. "I raised you to fight for your family," she said softly, "but I also raised you to tell the truth." Yandy's shoulders shook as fresh tears fell. "What if the truth costs me everything?" she whispered, and her mother pulled her into a slow, steady embrace. "Then we will carry the cost together," she replied. Night fell again, and with it came a loneliness neither of them had ever known in this way. Mendeecees stood at the window of his apartment. The city lights stretched out below like a distant reflection of everything he had lost and might yet lose. He wondered what Yandy was doing at that exact moment, whether she too was staring into the dark, asking the same quiet questions he could not answer. On another screen, somewhere in the city, the leaked story continued its relentless spread, each share stripping away another layer of privacy, twisting pain into spectacle. Fans are shocked by the speed of it all, by how quickly a marriage that once symbolized resilience now seemed defined by fracture, and as midnight approached, neither Mendeecees nor Yandy slept, both suspended in the hollow space between what had been and what could never be again. The following days blurred into a sequence of lawyers' calls, cautious statements, and carefully worded silences, every move scrutinized, every absence amplified. Yandy avoided the cameras entirely, slipping through side doors and back entrances when she had no choice but to leave the house. Mendeecees canceled appearances he had once committed 2 months in advance, retreating further from the public eye even as it pressed closer. When they finally spoke directly again, it was not in person, but through measured messages routed through legal counsel. The distance between them no longer just emotional, but procedural, cold, official, and final in a way that made reconciliation feel like a story from another lifetime. He read her words carefully, her tone controlled but heavy with sorrow, and after long deliberation, sent a response that was equally restrained, neither of them allowing the raw truth of their feelings to spill through the filter of formality. Yet beneath the legal language and public silence, the emotional undercurrent surged stronger than ever, anger mixed with grief, betrayal tangled with memories of love that had once felt unbreakable. The family was left divided in more ways than one, grandparents speaking in hushed voices on late-night calls, siblings arguing behind closed doors, the fractures spreading outward in quiet, painful ripples. As the story entered its second week in headlines and whispers alike, the narrative began to take on a life of its own, one that neither of them fully recognized. Fans are shocked by the conflicting versions of events that now circulated as fact, some portraying Mendeecees as cold and unforgiving, others painting Yandy as masterfully deceptive. And in the noise of it all, the truth became a fragile thing, easily bent by whichever voice spoke the loudest. Late one night, unable to bear the weight of it alone, Mendeecees finally broke his silence with his oldest friend. The two sat on the floor of the apartment with half-empty glasses between them, the room dim, the only light coming from the street below. "I never wanted revenge," Mendeecees said quietly, his voice thick. "I just wanted honesty." His friend nodded, saying nothing, letting the words settle, knowing that sometimes the simple truth is the hardest thing to live with. Across town, Yandy wrote and rewrote a statement she was not yet ready to release, each version softer, then stronger, then softer again, her cursor blinking on the screen like a patient observer to her indecision. She wanted to defend herself, to explain, to scream that she was more than the worst story being told about her, but every time she imagined pressing send, she saw her children's faces and closed the document instead. And so the second phase of their unraveling moved forward, not with explosive confrontations, but with quieter, heavier steps, each decision layered with consequence, each silence louder than any argument, the storm no longer gathering, but fully overhead, ready to release whatever remained unseen into the open. The third week brought no relief, only more complication, as public interest intensified and friends, family, and fans alike weighed in. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and alleged insider accounts, each one more sensational than the last. Mendeecees scrolled through his feed with a mix of disbelief and exhaustion, every notification a reminder that the world had claimed ownership of a private heartbreak. He put his phone down, rubbed his face, and whispered, "How did it get this far?" Yet even in the quiet of his apartment, the echo of his own voice felt hollow. Yandy, meanwhile, had begun attending meetings with her attorney, discussions that felt more like strategy sessions for a battle than conversations about reconciliation. Every question was measured, every answer cautious. And yet beneath the careful planning, fear and sadness simmered. She felt trapped between the need to protect herself, the desire to salvage what she could of the family, and the impossibility of undoing what had already been exposed. Her hands often shaking as she signed document after document, each one a step further from the life she thought she had. As the days wore on, tensions escalated within the extended family. Calls became arguments, text messages turned into confrontations, the children's aunts and uncles picking sides, cousins whispering in hallways, parents sitting quietly in stunned disbelief, all trying to navigate the shifting alliances without causing further damage. And yet the pressure was inescapable. The family was left divided more sharply than anyone had imagined possible. On a particularly tense evening, Mendeecees received a call from a former colleague, someone who had known both him and Yandy before cameras ever followed their lives. "I can't believe this is happening," the voice said, incredulous. "After everything you built together, after all the public battles you fought side by side." He listened quietly, the weight of the words pressing against him. "I know," he replied simply. "Sometimes the truth hurts more than any fight ever could," and the line went silent, leaving him alone with the gravity of his decision. Yandy, later that night, found herself alone in the living room, the dim light casting long shadows across the furniture. Her phone buzzing with messages she could not answer, tears running freely now. Unchecked by the performative composure she had maintained in public, she whispered into the empty room, "What do I do now?" Knowing there was no simple answer, no path that did not lead through pain, and that whatever came next would be scrutinized and judged beyond her control. The children sensed the tension even without knowing the details. Their routines disrupted, dinners quiet, nights spent in separate homes, the laughter and warmth that once filled the household, now replaced by whispered conversations, cautious glances, and a pervasive sense of something unfixable lingering in the air. And both parents felt the weight of that loss with every passing day, guilt entwined with grief in a way that left them exhausted yet unable to step back. Rumors continued to multiply. Fans are shocked as speculative videos and posts exploded across platforms, each one claiming more knowledge than the last. Some supporters defending Mendeecees vigorously, others rallying behind Yandy and the commentary. Often left neither side unscathed. The couple watched from the edges of the storm, knowing that no statement, no explanation, no act could fully control the narrative now. Every move dissected, every silence interpreted as admission or defiance. One evening, Mendeecees attended a private meeting with a potential mediator, someone meant to facilitate communication without escalating conflict. The room was tense, every word chosen carefully. He explained his side, his concerns, his need for honesty, and the mediator nodded, offering guidance without judgment. Yet when he left the room, the sense of resolution felt distant, the emotional fissures far deeper than even professional advice could bridge. Yandy, similarly, spent hours drafting responses and clarifications, her attorney reviewing each line, emphasizing tone and phrasing. She reread every paragraph countless times, struggling to maintain composure even in writing, knowing that any misstep could be amplified, twisted, and weaponized in the court of public opinion. And yet, despite the care, she could not shake the sense of vulnerability that came with being both scrutinized and misunderstood. Friends tried to intervene, offering comfort, advice, and sometimes attempts at negotiation, but their efforts often backfired. Emotions ran high, tempers flared, and small disagreements became magnified under the pressure of weeks of stress and public attention, each interaction adding another layer to the already complex emotional landscape, leaving both Mendeecees and Yandy more isolated, despite the presence of those who cared. As the week drew to a close, both found themselves reflecting on the events that had led to this point, memories of happier times intermingling with the sting of betrayal. Arguments replayed endlessly in their minds, moments of laughter and trust now reframed with suspicion, each memory a double-edged sword that both comforted and hurt. And the realization settled in that nothing would ever be quite the same. The media continued to probe, some claiming insider knowledge, others fabricating stories entirely. Fans are shocked by the intensity of coverage, the speed at which details, true or not, spread, and the relentless scrutiny placed both individuals under a pressure neither had anticipated, making every decision, every interaction, every private moment vulnerable to public judgment. In the quiet hours, late at night, Mendeecees would sometimes sit alone on the balcony, staring out at the city lights, imagining conversations that could have gone differently, imagining outcomes that might have spared them all this pain. And yet, even in the solitude, the shadow of the truth loomed, unchangeable and unwavering, demanding acknowledgement and action. Yandy similarly would pace her living room, phone discarded, legal papers stacked neatly but untouched, thinking through every choice, every possibility, and wondering how they had arrived at a point where love, history, and family could be overshadowed so completely by betrayal, uncertainty, and the glare of public scrutiny, realizing that the coming days would demand a clarity she did not yet feel she possessed. One particularly stormy evening, lightning illuminating the city intermittently, Mendeecees received another call, this time from a distant relative, voice sharp with emotion. "The family is splitting. We can't just watch this happen." He listened, words of advice, worry, and subtle judgment pouring in, and though he nodded silently, he knew the path he had chosen was solitary. Even if supported, the consequences now fully his to bear. Yandy faced similar pressure. A group of close friends and confidants gathered, offering opinions, sometimes conflicting, about what she should say, how she should act, and whether any reconciliation was possible. The discussion tense, punctuated by raised voices and quiet sobs. Emotions ran high as each person projected their fears, hopes, and loyalties onto her decisions, and she left the room feeling simultaneously supported and utterly alone. As the third week ended, neither had taken significant public action, yet both were moving inexorably closer to final decisions that would change everything. The air between them thick with unspoken words, lingering doubt, and the heavy weight of truth laid bare. Fans are shocked not only by the divorce filing itself, but by the growing realization that what they see publicly is only a fragment of the private storm. A storm that shows no sign of abating, and with every passing day, the story deepens, complicates, and captures more attention than either of them could have anticipated. Mendeecees and Yandy, though still physically separated, remained connected through legal channels, mediated conversations, and the unavoidable intersections of shared responsibilities. Each meeting a careful dance of measured words and restrained emotion, the tension palpable even without raised voices. And every decision felt like a negotiation not just of logistics, but of legacy, perception, and the remnants of trust that remained between them. Amidst this backdrop, the children adjusted as best they could, aware in ways too early for their ages that something fundamental had changed. Routines altered, interactions cautious, and while the parents worked to shield them from the worst of the conflict, the tension seeped through, shaping moments that should have been innocent into charged experiences colored by uncertainty and divided loyalties. A silent witness to the unraveling of a family once thought unbreakable. Friends, family, and media alike continued to speculate. Fans are shocked at how quickly private pain became public spectacle. Every whispered conversation, every unguarded moment, and every partial statement feeding a narrative that neither party fully controlled. The story expanding outward in ways both predictable and surprising, creating an ever-growing web of speculation, rumor, and emotional consequence that seemed to grow exponentially with each passing hour. As the week drew to a close, Mendeecees found himself reflecting on what justice and honesty truly meant, wondering how to navigate a path that honored truth without causing irreparable damage. The weight of expectation, both internal and external, pressing down like a physical force, demanding careful steps, precise words, and unflinching resolve, and yet knowing that even with the best intentions, some pain could not be mitigated. Yandy, too, wrestled with her conscience and the demands of public perception. The private sorrow of mistakes and misunderstandings weighed against the relentless spotlight, and she questioned every choice, every explanation, and every action, trying to find a way to preserve dignity, protect her children, and salvage what could still be saved, all while the world watched, analyzed, and judged with relentless intensity. The third week ended with both of them exhausted, emotionally frayed, and acutely aware that the coming days would be decisive, that public attention would not relent, and that every action, every word, and every silence would be interpreted, analyzed, and debated. A delicate and dangerous balance of truth, perception, and consequence hanging over them like a storm cloud that could break at any moment. As this drama continues to unfold, one thing is clear. The story of Mendeecees and Yandy is far from over, and every twist, every revelation, and every decision only adds more layers to a saga that has captured the attention of fans around the world. You've witnessed the tension, the heartbreak, and the betrayal, and now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think really happened behind closed doors? Who do you believe, and where do you see this story heading next? The questions are endless, the emotions raw, and the stakes higher than ever. So don't just scroll past, join the conversation. Comment below with your thoughts, theories, and reactions. Make sure to like this video if you want us to continue covering every shocking update, and subscribe to the channel to stay in the loop as the story develops. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment of the unfolding drama. Your opinion matters, your voice can be part of the discussion, and together we'll navigate every shocking twist, every hidden truth, and every jaw-dropping moment that lies ahead. Remember, this is not just a story, it's an experience, and we want you to be part of it. So comment, like, and subscribe now. And let's see where this wild journey takes us next.